We continued having these conversations with the EPA, trying to keep them informed. We went to very many meetings. John Lyons, who is my Assistant Secretary for Climate Policy, went to more meetings than I want to count relative to talking about why it was important for EPA to look at it on a state by state basis. And we continue to make those arguments and those points right up to the very end, right up to actually a couple of days before the final rule was put out. The final rule very much surprised us. It was very, very different from the proposed rule. The proposed rule was very much a state by state analysis. The final rule came out more on a regional analysis around the electrical interconnects. Eastern interconnect, Western interconnect, and then a Texas interconnect. And they used those three regions rather than the states as the basis for them calculating what the final requirements were going to be. With the proposed rule, we would have had to have reduced our emissions of carbon dioxide by 18.6%. In the final rule, we have to reduce them by a little bit over 30%. When you look at that change, that is the largest change, and you look at the mass emissions reduction, that is the largest change from proposed to final of any state in the nation. We were really taken back by that because we had no indication until the day before it was released, when I did receive a phone call from EPA that Sunday, and it was released on August the 3rd, that it was going to be change that dramatically. So that was very, very much a surprise to us. And we have continued to say that those changes, not just to Kentucky, but a number of changes. Some states, their requirements were greatly lessened. Others were increased somewhat comparable to where Kentucky was. So you saw the lesser states going up, the greater states going down, depending on what way you look at it. In fact, under the final rule, there are 9 or 10 states that can actually increase their greenhouse gas emissions. And I have made that point to Administrator McCarthy, to Assistant Administrator Janet McCabe, that there seems to be a fallacy here that you would actually let some states increase their carbon dioxide emissions. So it is so dramatically different that it's not the rule that we really commented on.
Yes.
Okay? And we have made that point repeatedly. We believe that it is so dramatically different that they should really seriously consider opening up further a comment period for people to comment on that final rule, because it is a dramatically different rule. And they admit that it's a dramatically different rule. They admit that. And as a result, there is something called the Administrative Procedures Act, whereas if a regulation is changed so dramatically, then they have an obligation to put it out for public comment again.